Hey guys, welcome to my pool plan video in DFFOO Global. If Global is also following the same trend as the JP version of the game, we should be transitioning into a new schedule where we get only one event per week, but each event should have 2 banners. So in this video, and likely other videos moving forward, I will be covering 2 events per video. So this one will be covering Neon and Vivi's event. The cropped infographic on the left hand side of the slide was derived from the thewereotter's global forecast, and as always I will also include a link into the full forecast in the video description, so do check it out if you are interested. First off, a look in how I did in Garnet's FRBT arc. The first event I actually wanted to pull until I scored Garnet's FR because I already do have all her other weapons including her BT. Luckily enough, the free multi actually gave me a free FR for Garnet, so I didn't actually have to spend any resources, and I just used high power stones to MLB the FR. The second event after that was 7's event, and I initially skipped the event altogether and I went ahead and pulled for Warrior of Light's event after that. I had to spend 520 tickets, and on top of that I also had to spend 50 BT tokens. I forgot to mention about the BT tokens on the slide to max out Warrior of Light's kit. And right after that I actually decided to go back on 7's banner and spend tickets pulling for her FR because I was actually quite interested in using 7 in potentially some 0-turn runs. Sadly though, in 7's banner I had to spend 330 tickets just to get 1 FR. So in total across these banners I spent 850 tickets. But on top of this, I also spent 50 additional tickets on some other banners chasing Liz and someone else's LD. I can't remember who, but I think it was Liz and Ida. But those 50 tickets I had to spend because I was capping out on tickets and I had a bunch of tickets about to expire. So it was at a point in time where I just really had to throw a few more tickets just so that I can redeem a couple more from my inbox. Anyway, overall it was pretty heavy arc for me. That meant that I spent 900 tickets in total, so I'm now in sort of a ticket recovery mode. Alright, so coming to the first event, which is the Act 3 interlude where Neon will be featured as a new character. There will be 2 banners here, the first featuring Neon's FR and BT, and the second banner will feature a rerun of Cloud of Darkness's FR and BT. Both characters will be getting access to their Force boards as well on this event. Since Neon is a new character, just a quick overview on her kit. Neon's S1 is an instant turn and free turn attack. It applies a stacking debuff, which is one of her trademark debuffs. That debuff caps out at 5 stacks, and you can increase the stacks by using either S1, S2, LD or FR. The S1 would normally apply 1 stack, however if she is hitting fire weakness damage, which she should, it also inflicts additional 2 more stacks per attack. That debuff provides a fire imperil on the enemy as well as an HP damage up that scales on the number of stacks. Having said that, the stacks would normally go down by 1 anytime a player character or an enemy takes an action. Neon's S2 also applies that stacking debuff but only at 1 stack. Her S2 though is important to refresh her overhead, which I believe is called the Fiend of Fire. Neon's overhead provides herself and only herself with Fire Enchant, and it also provides the ability where after Neon herself takes any action, the debuff stacks will not go down. Going to Neon's EX is sort of like a nuke. It hits pretty hard and it doesn't really do much else beyond applying a framed buff on herself, which is just relevant for stats. It just has a couple of offensive stats tied to it. Neon's LD is pretty key to her kit, and you would need both her LD as well as her BT as well, which I'll cover soon, for her to function really well. Neon's LD applies 10 stacks of the same debuff. I know I mentioned earlier that it normally caps out at 5 stacks. Her LD is the only way to bypass the 5 stacks maximum cap, and using her LD will bring her debuff right to 10 stacks immediately. This is very important because at 6 or more stacks on a debuff, anytime you are hitting fire weakness damage on the enemy, the brave hits will become rainbow damage. For those not aware of what rainbow damage is, anytime you are hitting rainbow damage, the brave damage will be instantly maxed out at the maximum possible that could be inflicted by that character. And this is a way to bypass high defenses or brave damage reductions on the enemy. Coming to Neon's PT Aura, Neon's PT Aura is the one that provides party True Fire Enchant. True Fire Enchant means that every attack that you use, regardless of whether or not it has an innate element, would also have fire element tied to it. One easy example is that if you are using Lightning's Spark Strike, for example, Spark Strike is normally a lightning elemental attack. However, if Neon is in the party, it becomes a lightning and fire enchanted elemental attack. This also means that if Neon has used her LD and she has her BT aura up, every attack that you do at the enemy across all characters would be hitting for rainbow damage. Her BT aura also has an important effect where it allows you to retain the stacking debuff every time you take an action, because normally it goes down by 1 anytime you take an action, so her BT aura just negates that. And this means that if you are doing sort of like a turn hogging gameplay or strategy, this BT aura will really help and will ensure that you will continuously deal rainbow damage without worrying about the debuff stacks going below 6 stacks. Finally, coming to Neon's FR, when you use Neon's FR, it inflicts 5 stacks of her debuff. Her FR conditionals are actually pretty easy to meet so long as you have her BT aura up and you are selecting an attacking command on your turn. The 3 conditionals are that when you do a fire attack, you get plus 20%, and you should be doing that because her BT aura provides True Fire Enchant. Second one is if you do at least 9999 brave damage hits on your turn, you get plus 30%, and that is also more or less guaranteed if you are doing rainbow damage. And the third conditional is that if you are attacking an enemy who has a stacking debuff on your turn, you get plus 20%, and that goes without saying since majority of her skills will inflict the stacking debuff. Overall, I am pretty intrigued with Neon. She is a pretty capable magical damage dealer, but I like the fact that she also has an important niche where she can allow your entire party to do rainbow damage. So my plans here would be to go in with gems. I'm going in with gems here partly because I used up quite a lot of tickets in Garnet's arc, and also since Neon's a new character, I thought using gems will allow me the greatest chance of maximizing all her weapons passives. I already have Cloud of Darkness's LD and BT, and I'm not really interested in her FR, so I plan to skip the second banner. One important thing to note is that if we are having the same secondary featured characters as JP, Kate Sif should be making a return as well, and I would at least recommend to consider getting his LD because his LD call ability is pretty useful. After Neon, the next event should be the 6-man event Area 4 featuring newly released FR and BT for Vivi. This event should also feature a rerun of Tifa's FR and BT, and both characters would have access to their 4 spots. Tifa herself would or should also get an update to her conditionals, where she now gets an additional plus 10% whenever you do a critical strike. Previously, you get 30% on a critical strike on her force bonus, so now it will be 40% instead. On this event, Vivi should also get a massive rework across his S1, S2, EX and LD. Functionally, they still remain largely the same, but they do get a rework in terms of damage, so they get more HP dumps and greater damage output overall. Importantly, his LD overhead now has 8 stacks maximum, and you do get 8 stacks right at the start of battle without using his LD. On top of that, his follow-up Embers of Darkness attack also becomes 3 HP dumps that ignores enemies' defense. So overall, he is a pretty competent damage dealer, and the fact that he now also have access to BT mode, I think really makes him have at least a very large potential to fulfill your needs of the main damage dealer in your party. Vivi's BT Aura provides some nice offensive stats. It provides you a massive plus 50% Brave damage and Brave damage cap up, 20% HP damage up, and 30% HP damage cap up. As long as Vivi's BT Aura is up, any buff that he grants would become gold framed. Vivi gets a new FR, and his FR conditionals seems a bit of a mix to me. So the first conditional is whenever any player does a fire attack, and this can also be counting in often fire attacks, you get plus 5%. If Vivi himself is the one that does the fire attack, you get an additional 5%. So if the fire attack comes from Vivi, that is 10%, and his Embers of Darkness follow-up attack is also counting in as a separate 10% modifier. The third conditional is if you end your turn with less than 100% HP, you get plus 20%, and considering that Vivi's attacks would drain your party's HP, there should be no problem meeting this conditional as long as you don't stack too many HP regen abilities on your party. The last conditional though, I think is a bit of a give and take. It is when you do a modified Brave and HP attack, you get plus 40%. This ties in with Vivi's double fire, which he gets access to, I believe, every time he does his LD. That being said, if you plan on using Vivi's FR and allowing other party members to get a turn, not many characters would have strong enough modified Brave and HP attacks that would make it worth your while to use, and that means that on other characters' turn, if you are using skill users instead, you would be missing out on the juicy plus 40%. One thing to note is that in the JP banner on Tifa's banner, Gladio was a secondary featured unit, and if he does make a return in GL as well, I think he's a character that I would highly recommend to consider picking up. Up till today, he's still considered one of the best, if not maybe even the best, cover tank in the game because he has the ability to negate Brave and HP damage done to himself. If you are fairly new to the game, he is most definitely a character I would recommend to consider picking up. Overall, my plans here is to skip. I already have Gladio, I have Tifa's FRBT, and I don't really have a lot of interest in Vivi. He does have the potential to become a great damage dealer, but at this point I'm pretty comfortable, and I should probably also have Neon already fully built coming to this event. So just for the sake of saving resources, I will likely be skipping these banners. Alright, so this brings us to the part of the video where I talk a little bit about which characters that you could potentially prioritize if you are limited in resources. Take note though that a lot of this is really biased based on my preferences and playstyle, and as per the disclaimer at the bottom, the biggest thing that you should consider is to focus on roles that fill gaps in your roster, and also of course fulfilling your preferences in how you would like to approach the game. First off, in terms of good value category, and these are characters that I think will provide you good value regardless of who you already built on your roster, just on the virtue of how strong or how versatile they are. And this is one of the rare times where I actually list a secondary featured character on this part of the slide, and that is Gladiolus. I did briefly mention him already on Tifa's banner, but Gladio is a pretty powerful tank to the point where there are many Shinryu stages where I actually auto plus with Gladio providing defense for the party and someone else in the party providing the force ability. Gladio I think is also especially useful if you are fairly new to the game because his utility of providing cover to the entire party and mitigating all Brave and HP damage that he takes is pretty invaluable and makes most fights, including even most Shinryu fights, pretty simple. The second character here I list is Neon, and Neon I think is a bit more difficult to actually make a decision. I think she could go either way, either in the good value or maybe on the high end of the role fulfillment category. First off, Neon is a magical damage dealer, and she is pretty competent at that. The only thing of course is that she's facing very fierce competition in the damage dealer department. And if that was the only thing that she can do, then I think she will most definitely go into the role fulfillment category. However, she does have a very interesting niche where, as I mentioned earlier in the video, she provides the entire party with True Fire Enchant on her BT+, and she allows you the ability to hit for rainbow damage as long as you are hitting fire weakness damage. This is still a very rare utility. There's very few characters in the game that actually has access to rainbow damage. We have Core and Jagran that will allow only themselves to hit for rainbow damage. And of course we have Setzer that can allow also your entire party to hit for rainbow damage, but the difference is Setzer is comparatively worse in the damage dealing department, and importantly, Setzer allows you to deal rainbow damage through a buff that he casts on your entire party. Neon on the other hand allows you to hit rainbow damage through her stacking debuff that she casts on the enemy party instead. Which is better or worse really depends on how you approach the fight. If you are building a party that wants to turn Hawk and deny the enemy's turn, then having Neon would be better, because if the enemy is not taking turn, the debuff will in theory last forever, and you can just continuously wail on them with rainbow damage across your entire party. Considering that rainbow damage up till now is still a pretty rare utility, on that virtue I decided to place Neon on the good value category, and I think she should be a good character, even maybe as a backup for fights that heavily resist brave damage or fights that have very high enemy defenses. Going to the role fulfillment category, and this category consists of characters where I feel that may have some value, but it also overall depends on your roster, and they may potentially be skipped if you're pretty comfortable with having other characters that can do very similar things as them. Here I place Tifa. Tifa's role is a specialist single target damage dealer, and while she actually did get her BT and FR pretty early in the Shinryu era, I have to say that up till today, she is still one of the best single target damage dealer unit, and if the fight only has one boss or maybe one main boss, then you can't really go wrong by bringing Tifa. The fact that she also now gets access to her force boards, and she gets a slight bump on her force conditionals with the additional plus 10% means that she is still very relevant nowadays. Next to Tifa, I place Vivi. Vivi is actually a very strong magical AoE damage dealer. When I look at his kit, the number of HP dumps that he deals in addition to his follow-up attacks is actually pretty good. The fact that his follow-up attack also ignores enemy defense means that his damage is going to be pretty consistent across the fight. That being said, the one drawback with using Vivi is that his attacks will drain your party of HP, in a way similar to Dark Knight Cecile, except that his HP drain is to a smaller degree, but it affects the entire party instead. Make no mistake though, if you like Vivi and you really build him up and you build a party around him, he will not disappoint you in the damage dealing department. The next character that I put here is Kate Sith, and I know his proper pronunciation is Cat Shi, but I've been calling him Kate Sith ever since I played FF7, and I don't want to change how I call his name, so I will always be referring to him as Kate Sith. I put him here because I think he should at least be considered if you still do not have his LD, because his LD call ability is one of the best offensive calls in the game. When you use the Kate Sith LD call, you get a 2-turn party-wide aura that gives you guaranteed critical hit attacks, as well as the very rare ability to get additional brave gain every time you do a brave attack. This is a very supportive call that you can slap on one of your support characters so that your main damage dealer will get a huge boost in overall damage. Beyond that, on a smaller scale, I guess, his LD Call ability also provides you his Cheerful Gift buff, and his LD Call ability is also an instant break attack on the enemies regardless of how much Brave they have. Overall, a very nicely packaged call ability. Anyway, lastly, I placed Cloud of Darkness here because I felt that it would just look weird if she's on a banner and she's not featured on this slide. Unfortunately though, I don't really see a lot of rationale to pull for Cloud of Darkness. I guess maybe in Force Echoes, one of the benefits is that if her follow-up attack breaks and she gets a free turn, you can then squeeze in her Force Echo attack during Force time. Having said that though, the fact that she jumps her turn and steals her turn anytime her follow-up attack breaks an enemy may be a bit counterproductive in the Force Echo era, because without Force Echo, that would mean she will be taking one valuable Force time turn. On top of that, her off-turn attacks are only single HP dump, so she's facing very fierce competition because nowadays there are a lot of off-turn attacks that are 2 and some maybe even 3 HP dumps. And not forgetting, she only gets access to her follow-up attacks while she has a BT aura up, and because she jumps her turn quite significantly, you can find yourself in situations where you quickly burn through her BT aura, and once that's gone, her damage significantly plummets down. Is she usable? I mean, definitely she can still function as a main damage dealer, but given the fact that we are really spoiled for choice now for damage dealers, I mean, just on these 2 weeks alone, we have Neon and Vivi as magical damage dealers. It's really difficult to justify a reason to pull and invest for Cloud of Darkness if you haven't already done so. That brings me to the end of this video. In summary, my main plan is to spend gems pulling for Neon's gear, and I do plan to fully max her out because I really do like the additional rare utility that she has in providing rainbow damage cover for your entire party. For the rest of the banners though, I'll likely be skipping. As always, I hope this video has been helpful, and if you enjoyed the content, do leave a like, comment and subscribe, it really helps a lot. Till then, I'll see you guys in the next pool plan video. Bye!